The bipartisan infrastructure bill isn't gonna have much that really excites progressives, but supposedly the reconciliation bill just might. And I recently watched a video with Bernie Sanders explaining what he thought about it, and it gave me a little bit of hope. Here is some of what he had to say.
Under the proposal we are bringing forth, no family in America would pay more than 7% of their income for childcare, universal pre-K, free tuition at public colleges and universities. This legislation ends the international disgrace, Chris. We're the only country on earth that doesn't provide paid family and medical leave. We're going to end that. We are going to deal in the most aggressive way imaginable with the housing crisis, where you got 18 million families paying 50% of their limited incomes on housing. We're dealing in the other bipartisan bill with the physical infrastructure. And of course, we are making the largest investment in this country's history in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to combat the existential threat of climate change. Also, I should tell you, we're investing tens of billions of dollars in something that I personally am very excited about, and that is a civilian climate corps. We're going to give hundreds and hundreds of thousands of young people who believe passionately in the need to reverse climate change the opportunity to earn good pay and get an educational benefit as well to help us combat climate change. So add it all together, you know what, in my view, this is probably the most consequential piece of legislation since the 1930s.
Which is obviously a massive claim. I mean, that time period, includes legislation like, for instance, the creation of Medicare and Medicaid. But he's saying this is on the level of something like that, a historic piece of legislation. And we will have some of the details for you shortly. But Viviana, what'd you think? Does it give you some hope seeing Bernie so fired up about it?
Bernie always gives me hope, and we need that so much, and I'm really glad that he's there fighting for us. I mean, in generations to come, we're gonna look back at Bernie Sanders and really just see what an impact he made. Even if some of the stuff, obviously he didn't get to the presidential office, but even some of the stuff that he's bringing up now, it's taking a while, but it's catching up with the population. And the more that chasm grows between the rich and poor, the more people are gonna be on Bernie's side.
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely, I think a lot of what is going to at least be proposed in the reconciliation bill, whether it makes it through the process, which is a very important part that we need to bear in mind. I don't think it would look the way it, at least right now, is going to look if not for the presidential campaigns of Bernie Sanders, eventually assisted by a number of other great politicians. In the pre-show, we talked about Congressman Jamal Bowman's new Green New Deal for US schools. You've had versions of that sort of legislation for things like public housing, as well as a number of other policies being provided by Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush and Ilhan Omar and others, as well as the Green New Deal itself. I don't think we would have had much of this outside of proposals in activist circles, if not for Bernie Sanders. So him being cited does give me some hope. But it does not by itself mean that it's going to happen. There's obviously a lot of opposition to the will of progressives like Bernie Sanders. As you said, he's not president right now. That is a demonstration of the opposition that stands between us and progress.
The coordinated opposition against these kind of bills and against politicians like Bernie Sanders. It is planned, the lobbyists make sure, pockets are lined, and here we are. And I agree with you saying that this would be something likened to those FDR days where they created alphabet soup. It helps the infrastructure, it creates jobs, and it brings millions out of the unemployed workforce into really skilled labor and gives them an opportunity to grow. And also a self-pride of being able to do something that's good for the country, good for your family, and good for your future. I mean, what's not to like about it?
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.